Hi, Audrey. Thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Hi, Luann. It's great to be here. I'm super excited to chat with you today.
I'm looking forward to this conversation also. So, here's the thing you do financial coaching for business owners like us, and we need the help, I promise you. The thing about it is that it's funny because I read on your website that you said 80% of the businesses are more successful when they look at their numbers every month. Now, I'm going to ask you about that, but my listeners know that my husband, the Vin man, looks at them every morning, like literally every morning. So is he 80% times 30 days worse likely to be successful? So talk to me about that. What
Okay.
does that say? What does
Um,
that mean?
well, are you looking at your numbers, Luann?
Well, you see, I'm getting there. So I will, look, everybody knows me. I always tell the truth. So I have my husband and I have my mother, and my mother has been a bookkeeper for many, many years, and she's my bookkeeper. And it's interesting because 2 months ago, I started working with Michelle Williams. I mentioned her to
Yes.
you off air, and she is our financial guru and all the things on the podcast that she's our go to person, along with Peter Lang and Kimmer Liddy, and probably now yourself, Audrey. Um, and I had a conversation with Michelle a couple of months ago, and I'm like, that's it, line on the sand. I need to close the last loop. I need to know all the things. And I have to say, it was very nice what Michelle did because I'm coming to this conversation knowing like I've got the Vin man and I've got my mom and my relationship with her and Pete and Kim, and I'm consistently in the conversation going, I know I don't like this, you guys do. I know I don't know how to do that like you do. And she was really very kind, but also I respected what she did. She said, Lou, I've had a lot of conversations with you. She goes, you know a lot more than you think you know.
Yeah.
And as we're getting into it, of course, I'm learning that to be true. But of course, I do have the gaps. And I think that I fall into what you just said. Like, do I look at them every day or every month? And I'm looking at them more often because I'm more in a headspace willing to fix it,
Yeah.
because before I was looking and I was seeing the problems and I was just like, whatever, whatever, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? And they weren't problems that were getting in the way of being successful or making money,
Right.
but it is that final little loop to close.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes, no, maybe.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. That was great. I love your honesty. But yes, so looking at them every day, sure you can. Is it really going to move the needle in your business? Probably not.
Right.
Like
It's
and
just a little
and
obsessive.
most people don't have the time. Business owners don't
Mm,
have the time to be looking at them every single day, right?
mm,
Um, if your numbers are accurate, which is so important, and you look at you and you can have a bookkeeper or an accounting person preparing them for you. But if
mhm.
you're not looking at them on a monthly basis, you're not getting this story.
Right.
Okay. Um, and your numbers actually tell a story. And if you look at them once a year, the story's over.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's no good. I know that. That I
So, but if
know.
you look at them once a month, you can
Mhm,
shift directions
mhm,
and
mhm.
say, okay, this line item or this revenue item is making me more money. Maybe I should
Right,
focus more on that. Or this one isn't so good. Maybe we should just dump that. Whatever it is. Or, looking at the expenses as well, right? It's making
right.
sure there's the net profit. If there is a big net profit, and I say this all the time, like if you're shocked when you get your tax bill because there was a big profit, then
Yeah,
you're obviously not looking at your numbers. So, and a lot of people, if all the women that I work with know before the like by the end of the year, if not before, if they're going to have a fairly, not the exact number, obviously, but
Right.
what their
A good
prox,
idea.
good idea if they're going
Yeah.
to owe the government a lot of money or not.
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
so, and
It's
if you're
so
not
funny because
looking at your numbers, you really don't know that, and you're going to be in for a slap in the face.
yeah, a couple of things that you mentioned there. So funny because just yesterday, as we're recording, I had two different coaching sessions. One with one of my chairman of the boards, and one of with our through our Exciting Windows team. And interestingly, literally that was one conversation was, hey, we need to figure out so that when the taxes come, what you can expect to pay, not get a surprise. And it
Yeah.
was a new concept to her. And so I was describing to her how we're going to do that and how we're going to set it up and how we're going to look at her numbers so that she isn't surprised. Because right now she's a very, very new business owner. And, she's relying on her husband's accountant and and I'm like, yeah, I know where you're at. I was you 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Right. I said, but you want to come to that conversation knowledgeably. And so we had that whole conversation. And then in the other conversation I had was exactly what you also said. I was like, okay, you're 17 years in business, seasoned lady, smart. I
Wow.
could tell by the conversation. Awesome. But one of the things that she's never done is track the revenue versus the cost to run that revenue and understand the profit margin of it.
Yes.
And so I
So
was like, and
important.
that's what I said. I said, no, 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 no. We need to know, like, this revenue stream, what, like, out of your gross sales for the year, I was like, well, how much came from that revenue stream and how much for that? And that was not known. And I was like, okay, problem one to tackle. Let's know what revenue comes from what streams, and then
Yes.
let's know what the gross margin is. And I said the same thing to her. I said, because what if, one stream is making 20, 30% gross margin and the other one's making 50, 55, 60? Like, what are we even putzing with the other one for? Or are there things we can do to the other one to mitigate it to get it back up to a healthy profit of 50, 55%? And so it was just interesting that literally, and that's why Michelle said to me, you know a hell of a lot more than you
Yeah.
let on.
Yeah. And you don't have to know like all the intricates. That's why you hire somebody,
Yes.
right? But what you should know is, you know, you should spend at least 15 minutes minimum a month looking at your profit and loss in your balance sheet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
But
yeah.
knowing what you're looking
But
at, right?
knowing
Like,
what you're looking
understand.
at,
Yes. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where I help women. I educate
Yeah.
them to understand what they're looking at, and so they're not like blindsided. Or, I've had women who are like, well, I, what I see on my I am looking at my numbers, and what I see doesn't look right. So I keep going through these bookkeepers,
Yes.
and I don't know why. Is it me? I'm like, no, because there's so many bookkeepers out there that do data entry and think they're a bookkeeper and really don't
Mhm.
have the accounting education behind them to know where to put the stuff, or they're not talking to the owner to say,
Right.
what is this, what is that? And and it's so common out there. If bookkeepers know how to use QuickBooks, they think they're a bookkeeper. I don't mean to slight bookkeepers, but you know the other thing I would
Well,
say is really like do your homework, when hiring a bookkeeper too.
and the thing is, what I find is that I just talked about this on Instagram yesterday. We at Luann University, we teach a class called Online Bookkeeping 101.
Mhm.
Kathleen Anderson is the teacher. And the thing about it is that all of what you said is absolutely true about bookkeepers in general and their relationship with the employer in general. But the bookkeeping for an interior design business is not like the bookkeeping for a bakery business or a window treatment business. It is a completely different business model. It is so complex. And the chart of accounts and understanding the different classes that you put different things in bookkeeping in your QuickBooks. And the thing about it is the crux of it is I have had multiple people in my chairman of the board program and in just conversations at live events literally say to me, I'm on my third bookkeeper. And literally every time they get a new bookkeeper, the new bookkeeper is saying, oh, this is all done wrong. I'm going to have to redo everything. And I'm watching business owners pay for 2 and 3 and 4 months of services
Yeah.
till the new bookkeeper gets it squared away. And what I really believe is,
Ugh.
and this is why we started doing the online bookkeeping 101 course. What I really believe is that there are probably times when the books are messed up. But really what it comes down to is the designer and window treatment professional is not aware of the way the QuickBooks should be set up.
Yeah.
And so they take the information from bookkeeper one, who's doing it based on their knowledge
Yeah.
with good faith, but then it doesn't work. They can't read the report. Somebody, a colleague, me, somebody points out you should be able to pull this report. They can't. So then they go to bookkeeper number two. But the thing is, it's like you have to have enough knowledge to oversee it so that
Yeah.
you can say, no, 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 that's not where that gets categorized. No, 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 that's not what that
Exactly.
is.
Yes.
Right? Like we don't need to be in the weeds doing it every week. And to your point, a lot of bookkeepers won't show up and make the owner sit down, or the owner doesn't volunteer to review. Right? They just like keep going on. Now that was me
Yes.
and my mom. That was me and my mom. I was like, you're my mom. You got this. And so now we're like, all right, let's talk.
Let's fix this up.
You know,
Well,
I mean, I never would have done that with a stranger. You know what
right.
I'm saying?
Right.
But I did. But even that, it's you need to do it, right? You need to have these
100%.
conversations,
Yeah,
and it
because
sharpens them because they understand better your business, right?
right. And the bookkeeper is not going to understand your business. Like
No,
I always make it a point, in my CFO consulting business to try to like understand their business model as much as I can so I can make sure
yeah,
that my bookkeeper is doing it right because I
right.
have a team of
A
bookkeepers
team,
that work under me in my CFO business. So
yeah.
like I can point out before it gets to them, no, 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 this is not right. That's not right. This is kind of the business model. So yeah.
Exactly, exactly. I love it. I love it. Now, another thing that I read on your website that I thought was interesting because it seems like a different lane, but I'm curious the point of view and how it shows up in your business consulting that you do. Is you said that team alignment, how it may be blocking your and how employees may be blocking your growth. And of course, I know that concept. I know that thing because, I work with my cousin Eileen. I work with Jessica Hahn, Jennifer Tuckian, but that seems like what's that doing in a CFO's lane? Like, tell me about how that work shows up in the work that you do with your clients,
Well,
working
you'd be
through that.
surprised. It shows up everywhere, Luann.
Okay.
It shows up in my business financial coaching business as well as my CFO business. Because I mean, your team, of course, the best team is somebody that's invested personally in the success of your business. And when you get an employee who is, like, educate them, grow them, make them happy, because most people come to a job, show up, and do their job and want to leave. They don't really
Okay.
care about the success of the business. So finding those golden nuggets on your team of somebody who's really aligned and really wants your business to be successful, like they're golden nuggets. Keep them forever.
Okay. Okay.
But
Okay. So it's really just good business practice. It's the
yeah,
same. There's nothing specific in the financial lane on this that I took it the other way. So
yeah,
yeah, no,
no, it's just
100%.
like you said, good business practice, and just be aware of it, right? And
Yes.
the old saying, hire slow, fire quick. Like, and so many business owners hate to fire people.
Yeah,
Right?
no, it's funny because we have an episode that's probably coming out next week as we're recording. So by the time we're on air, it's out, is on the Window Treatment for Profits podcast. I just had a discussion with Jessica Harling, who is a people and a process expert. So she helps you find, hire, train the right people and helps you build the processes in your business. She's outstanding. And the particular focus of the episode was when the person who's not right is like your sibling or your, like, your partner of 25 years or,
Yeah.
just a friend that you hired that like what a lot of times happens is you hire somebody and they're really good for that stage of your business
Yes,
and then they're
so
not.
much.
But when you were best girlfriends and your kids went to kindergarten together, like, that's not so easy, and so we had that whole, like, hire slow, fire quick, but
Yeah.
when it's personal,
Yeah, it's
it's
hard.
very difficult to fire quick.
It is, but, do you wanna invest in that person and grow them, and are they open to that? There's always
Yeah.
that too,
Yeah,
so,
yeah, no.
yeah.
It's a tough conversation, so we'll link that episode in the show notes in case anybody's like, "How do I do that?" Not that we have the magic bullet over
No,
there, we just kinda
you gotta
talked
rip the
about it.
Band-Aid off and
That's just what she said. That's literally what she said. She's like, "You just gotta rip the Band-Aid." Oh, we did have some tactical strategies though. So, okay, now let's talk about, one of the things that you also, mentioned and I read was there are things to do, and I think you might have even called out the number one thing to do to build wealth. So I'm moving
Yes,
beyond now. I'm moving beyond. We've set the stage. You need to understand your numbers. You need to have quality people running your numbers for you. You need to analyze and just literally look at them. You're saying once a month. I think once a week. Like at least just run through until you get that really come see, come saw with your bookkeeper, and you know that everything is being categorized right and
yeah.
all the things. But I think you can get to the point where you are a once a month reviewing, and we're saying all that's in our rearview mirror. We're doing all of that
Mhm.
because I don't imagine we could do anything to build real wealth if we're not actually paying attention to our money first. So
Exactly.
that's kind of first, it's right. So, but what is that thing that you're talking about there? The first thing you should do when starting to build wealth?
Well, the number one thing, but first I wanna say as a tail to what you just said, um, what you focus on grows. And if you focus on your money, then you're going to grow your money. If you focus on your wealth, you're going to grow your wealth. But the number one thing that holds so many people back is money mindset.
Mm,
And I have a strategy I use with my clients where we go into the subconscious and we figure out what their money mindset is. And so
mm,
often we are carrying around a money mindset that was built in us from our youth.
yes.
So our subconscious is formed before the age 7. And whatever we're around at that time, we're taking all that in, right?
Mhm.
So, for instance, my mom had said to me, I work hard for my money. I can remember that on the regular, right? I work hard for my money. What my subconscious brain interpreted that to until I flipped it is I have to work. Making money is hard, right? Or I have to
Okay.
work hard to make money.
Right.
So that's not always true, right? There are times, you can build a business where you don't have to work hard to make money, working smarter instead of harder.
Right.
So, but if that subconscious belief is ingrained in your subconscious, you are gonna like burn yourself out trying to build this business because you think it has to be that way. And if your brain thinks it has to be that way, it will make it that way. So,
It's yeah, what you think you attract, what you think you
yes,
grow. That's just what you said a few moments ago, and
yes,
it's so true. And if your brain is wired to think that work is hard and money comes after working hard,
yeah,
then every day is gonna be you're gonna make every day hard unconsciously.
yes.
So how do you work with like how do you just point out to people, "Hey, you gotta figure out your money mindset," or is that something that you do? Are there a
That
couple
is
of questions you can run us through, like, "Help?"
sure. So I have 5 questions I typically use.
Oh,
One is, and I hate to do it, like, you have to give the answer as soon as I ask the question, or you go into your conscious brain
ah.
from your subconscious brain. So if I say to you, Luann, making money is, what was the first word that just came to your mind?
It's so funny, that's so weird. I was,
Um,
like, ready to overthink it and go, but I'm like, "Well, that is the first word."
yeah, first word that comes to your mind, great, that's
Oh,
perfect.
this is very
So
pressured.
how about this one? You
Okay.
ready? Saving
Okay.
money is.
Oh, that was hard.
Yeah.
That word was hard.
Yeah. So, those are just two of the five questions I use. Actually, I'm going to add a few more, but that's what your subconscious is. So
Oh,
if you
that's so
feel like
funny.
saving money is hard, it's going to be hard for you to save money.
So, okay, I don't know if you're going to ask me the other questions or you want me to tell you my feelings
Nope,
on these
go for it.
questions.
I'll just give them two. If you want all
Okay.
five, you can go to my website and there's an audio you can download. You'll get all five.
Okay. So what's interesting is that those were really the first two words that popped into my mind, right?
Yes.
That first thoughts that popped into my mind. And what's so funny is putting them together bookended like that. It's interesting because like when I really start to then play what are the words that are in my head and the movie in my brain about
Yeah.
myself and my life, literally that movie is I will always be fine no matter what. I will figure out a way to make
Yeah.
money. But the unsaid is that I can hear now is, and I may not have a lot of it every single moment of the time, but I will always have what I need.
Yeah.
And you see, that's limiting right there too,
Yeah.
isn't it? Like
Absolutely.
just
100%.
programming having what I need as opposed to blah, 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 right? Like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
But like I can remember thankfully we are long past these days, but I guess we were married 5 6 7 years, Vin and I. And you know, if you're going to be married like a couple of gabillion decades like we are, you're going to have some rough
Yeah.
patches.
Of
It's not
course.
all
Yeah.
sunshine and roses, right? And I remember we were about 7 years in and we were like I was just like, what are we doing here? How did I find
Yeah.
you and you find me? Because this is bull, right? It was just like nuts. I had 3 stepchildren living in my house. I had a baby. We were running a business. I was just like, what happened? Whose life is this? Right. And, and we were also fighting. Right.
Yeah.
And I remember at one point when it got serious, like we were running Window Works together. I started in Window Works when I was 21 years old. I didn't have a college education. You know what I mean? It was like the only thing I've ever done and could do and always will be able to do is sell something. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like in my late 20s and I'm just going, well, I was probably maybe, I don't know, what doesn't matter, late 20s, early 30s. And I was just like, well, right. Like you could be the best salesperson ever at IBM, but they're not going to even interview you. Like you're not even getting an interview. Like you're 30 years old with no college degree, like no experience other than I worked in my family business. Right. And so, but the thing was, I remember I was like, I know I will be fine. I will take this baby and we will live in a room and I will put her on my back in a backpack while I wait tables before I live miserably. You know what I mean?
Good for you.
And it was like,
Yeah.
that was it. It was like, I always knew I could make money, period.
Yeah.
But like hearing that, the end of it wasn't like, and I will be a multi-billionaire. I'll be like, and we'll probably live hand to mouth, but we'll live. Like I didn't say that part, but I can hear it now.
Yeah.
Like when you say saving is hard, right? Like it's so
Yes.
funny. And of course, in my 60s, there's savings. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? It's not like, but it wasn't like this easy where I met other people that it's part of their everyday. It's like
Yes.
some comes here and some goes away. And then they're like 40 years old and you're like, wait, you have how much saved? Like that's insane. Good for you, So
Yeah.
it's interesting how it reveals that mindset.
Yeah.
So
So my background, I did a certification in neurocoaching, which I learned all the science behind the brain and all of them. Just geek out on that. But that's kind of where I learned how like your subconscious actually runs the show. So
wow.
80, you have 80,000 thoughts per day,
Mm,
and 95% of them are coming from your subconscious. And
wow.
your subconscious was formed before the age 7. So literally you have a 7-year-old running the show every day. I like to
Oh
say.
my God.
Unless you really get in there and start shifting this stuff around. So when you get a negative answer to those questions that I ask, I call them prosperity blockers because literally that's what they are. They're blocking
Mm.
you from prosperity. So
So we didn't do the other questions. I don't know if you want to, but I'm obviously a person who is successful and
Yes.
has a certain amount of dollar bills. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm
Sure.
not like the wealthiest person on the block, but I am not living hand to mouth
Right.
like I was prepared to live my whole life, right? But so the thing is it that, maybe they're the 5 questions, maybe I've got one or two that had that negative mindset and the others are overcoming? Or do you think it's like, well, that actually might be what your immediate self-conscious is, subconscious is, but you are actively working and I don't even realize it to overcome it? Like,
Well,
how do you know what I
well,
mean?
I explain. I would say ask your husband those questions and see what he says about
Ah,
saving, because that may be. It sounds like he does the money in your
ah,
family.
so maybe he mitigated my nonsense.
So yeah. So
Oh,
um,
that's interesting. That's such a
I
good
would
point,
see
Audrey.
like that. I mean, if you were like single and by yourself, you might be living hand to mouth because you might think
That's right.
saving is hard and you just spend all your wealth and all your
And
money.
well, and see, for me, like with that mindset of I can always make
Yeah,
more, like
exactly.
that is
That's
my mindset. I can tell you that.
counterproductive to
Yes.
saving, right?
Yes, yes, yeah, and here's the thing, I'm not a thing person. Like, I don't have clothes and pocketbooks, and
Yeah.
I drive a Prius. Like, I'm not a thing person. You know what I mean? So I'm not spending it either. Like, I'm not a
Yes.
spender. You know what I mean? It's just funny. Just like to
Yeah.
me, I'd rather give it, share it, do
Sure.
whatever. You know what I mean? So, like I like to have it so I can do those things with it. Yeah, that's so interesting. So interesting. Okay, so that's the number one thing that
Yeah.
blocks us from
Like,
creating wealth is our mindset
yeah.
subconscious that was built in as a kid.
Yes. Yeah. And
God,
the
I've got 3 grandchildren. One is 8 and the other are younger. I'm like, what do we have to do to wire them right? I'm like, oh my God, let me
just
wire them.
show them abundance, right? Show them abundance. Show them, teach them savings and have them make it easy. All the things that we know as an older adult now, like instill that in them. For instance, I have a grandchild. I opened a mutual fund account for him. And when he's old enough, I'm going to show him how that money grew, right?
Right,
So,
right.
like, to show him, like, you didn't even know, but this money was here growing for you that I was putting in, and I'm going to show him this is exactly how much I put in. And, you know,
Yes.
hey, that would
It,
be an example of saving money is easy when your grandma's putting it in there
that's
for you,
right. When your grandma's there. And that's what the universe will teach him.
right?
It's easy, right? It's so funny that you say show them abundance because I'll
Yeah.
share you guys with a funny story in our family. So my husband is the guy where now we've been normal people our whole lives. Believe me, 4 kids, 4 colleges, the
Yeah.
weddings. It's not
Same.
like, rolling in dough. Like it's been like, let's manage this stuff here, right? Like, and let's make some more window treatments. Let's make this happen, right? So, but we've had a very nice life, right?
Yes.
And so I came from nothing. I know the difference. Okay. I have friends who have 50 times more, but very nice, wonderful life. Okay. Now, but my husband has certain mindsets about certain things. Like his father instilled in him, you do something once and you do it at the best you can. Right. So that's when you're attacking work. Like if you're like one time his father had him, he was like 11 years old and he told him to sweep out the garage. Well, he swept out the garage and, 20 minutes later, his father's like, right, try it again. And then it turned into be a 4-hour event sweeping the garage. He's like, if I ask you to do something, kid, you do it the best you can do. Like, don't give me second best, right?
So he's a
Like it's like,
perfectionist.
yes, oh, believe, yes, thank you, right? And so, but the other thing my father-in-law is, and he's a depression guy, right?
Yeah.
So he, worked hard for his money, all the things, but when he bought something, he bought the best that he could afford.
Mm.
So if you were going and you were getting furniture and it meant like you were going to get this and that was, but no, we'll wait 4 months until we can afford the best one. So it wasn't like just run it up on a card, but you were getting the best. If there was an appliance and you were doing a thing, nope, that's not the best one. I want the best one. And so Vincenz has this thing. And I'm always like, well, you don't need that. Do we have to have
Yeah.
that? Like, was that not right? But what's so funny is you talk about raising your children with abundance. So now we go on vacations, we go on family vacations. we're not the family that even when our girls were like 4 and 9 or 4 and 11 shared one hotel room. Well, what do we know? We'll have a room for them and a room for us. And, whatever we did. And we're on vacation. Let's have a nice dinner. Bring dresses for the girls. Let's get dressed up. Or the boys. Let's all do this. Right. And so he taught these girls, particularly the boys too, but the story relates to the girls. He taught these girls within our means, we lived a very nice life.
Yeah.
And you should expect that. And so now, as both girls go and they get married and they're with their husbands, the one husband, one day they were debating about something. We're all at the beach house and they're debating about something, that's one couple. And he's like, well, of course, 5-star Niagara, it's not good enough for you. And we all just looked and we're like, wait, what? And he just stared at us like, oh, I said that out loud in front of the Niagaras. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And he's like, well, I mean, let's just say it as it is. He goes, you guys raised them, they're 5-star Niagara. There's no 4-star anything. There's no 3-star anything.
And why not? We get to live a 5-star life, right? But he came from a different mindset. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. So it's funny. So I love the mindset piece.
Yeah.
It makes it it hammers it home for us. Okay. And then another question is, what is your net worth and why is it important when building wealth? So talk to us about what that means.
Yeah. So your net worth is all of your assets, your cash, your retirement accounts, your house or homes if you have more than one, anything that has value, even your car, but your car's going to depreciate, but is the current value of everything. Okay. That you want to calculate that, and then you want to take all of your debt. And this is revolving debt. So if you have a credit card that you pay off every month, that doesn't count. Revolving debt where if you have a credit card that you're paying monthly, hopefully not.
Those days are over.
Then, that debt you would include car loans, house loans, and you owe your parents money. I don't know, anything like that. You would put in the debt column. So then you take your assets and subtract your debt, and then that's your net worth. And I have a really easy, simple calculator. It's called the Wealth Building Bundle on my website that you can download that has a calculator that makes it super simple. You just throw in all the numbers and it does all the math for you.
Okay. And so the thing is, I like this because we need to have the clarity, right? Like it's, in other words, if we own a $300,000 house, but we owe $290,000 of it, we don't have $300,000 of net worth there. No. We have $10,000 of net worth there, right? So, and I do know that people do get confused. So, like, people will say, I have $1 million business. It's like, well, your business grossed $1 million, but your net was 200,000. So, and we do throw it around. We say multiple, like I do it here on the show too, but I do try, if you really pay attention, you will notice that I will often try to say gross revenue. Like I really won't say, you have $1 billion business. Like I'll and I don't like every time do the disclaimer and explain it, but the truth is, like, I'll say, what are the gross revenues of your business? Because that is something that does tell me a lot about your business. I get a lot of information from just that number.
I always ask that question too, but when I'm working with someone.
Yeah, because having taken, multiple business from zero up, I immediately, if you tell me my gross revenues were 200,000 or they were 2 million or they're 5 million, I can literally go right back to, what were my pain points then? Yeah. What stunk at that level? What was hard then? You know what I mean? So
there's always things at every level, right? New level, new devil, they say.
Yeah. Well, it's like when you think back at your life and you're like, what were the things that bothered me when I was in middle school? What are the things that bothered me? I just had a kid at the hairdresser today. She was saying something to me and she goes, well, and she, whatever it was. And I was like, listen, you're young. you'll work this out. You
Yes.
really will. And she looks at me, she goes, well, how young do you think I am? And I like looked at her and I was like, I don't know.
You're
Are you in your 20s? And she goes, and she just stares at me like, huh. And I'm like, how old are you? She goes, well, I'll be 22 next week. I'm like, yeah, sweetie, that's young. Like, stop. Right. And then in order to
You're a
put it in
baby.
perspective, well, the thing is, like she literally was like, I'm not that young. And then I said to her, I said, think about it. A minute ago, you were in high school. Think about that transition. Right. And so that's the same thing with
Yeah.
businesses, right? It's like that difference between a high schooler and a college person and a college person and a 30 something. There's wonderful aspects of every one of those stages, but when you've been through them, you can
Yeah.
put yourself back and take each stage seriously. And that's what we do when we help the businesses we work with, right? It's like, okay, just put me back in that headset,
Yeah.
that first 250,000 gross I'm going to make. Like, whoa, right? Like, it's so exciting, right? It's so
Yeah,
fun,
yeah,
when you did it.
definitely. Yeah, you
Yeah.
make a great point, Luann, too. Like, I it I cringe a little bit when I hear women say, "Oh, I have I'm worth $1 million because they have $1 million revenue," and
Mm.
I'm like, you want to figure out how much you're worth, figure out your net worth with my net worth calculator, and then we'll talk. and your business does have a value, and you can plug that into the net worth calculator. However, the value is, what can you sell your business for? If you are the solopreneur, you're the only one making money in that business. Let me tell you what, your business is not worth anything. It's not worth something till you start building a team and you
That's right.
can take yourself out of it.
That's
That's
right.
when you start really creating a valuable business that you could actually sell one day and profit from. So,
And I always say it on the show, you have a you, not a business,
yeah,
right? You have
yeah.
a you. That's
And
great.
some
Good for you.
people, if that's all they want,
And it's
that's great.
fine. 1000%. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. There are so many who legitimately intend to grow a you business,
Yes.
and it's
I love
valid.
that, a
And
you business. I'm going to steal
yeah,
that.
just credit me out in the world.
No
That's all.
problem. Luann says it's a you business.
That's it, right? I always say, you have a business or you have a you, right? Because the thing about it is that in my mind, a business that's a you, here's some advantages. So if somebody makes a good case to me and they want a business that's a you, that's their aspiration. If they say things to me like, I am the master of my time. I literally decide daily what I'm doing, when I'm doing it. I'm spending X amount of time with my family, my elderly parents, on the, I don't know, the mountain biking, whatever it is. And this suits me, and I'm earning the proper percentage of earning based on the gross revenue of the business. So if I'm a $1 million business, I'm bringing in $225,000 coin to my personal pocket. Not I'm a $1 million business and I'm making a $70,000 salary that I could make go working for a colleague, right? And so the thing is, if that's the case, we've created what we call a job for ourselves, but a really good job,
Yeah,
a job that
absolutely.
you don't have a boss, and a job that you can cancel the
Freedom.
appointments and go.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so that is, in my mind, a very legitimate aspiration, but what I hate and what breaks my heart is people who have you businesses and either are making, say, $1 million gross revenue, but are only taking 80 or 60,000 home.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, see, what is the point of going to sleep with all of that on your head if you're not making the CEO owner's salary from that you business?
100%.
And you are actually still working 12 or 14-hour days and not doing the things that make life wonderful, right? And so that's like in the moment.
Yeah.
But then if you also then look at me and say, and one day I'm doing all this because I'd like to sell it. I'm like, oh, see, sweetie, that part's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's not going to happen. And there are ways to transform use into businesses.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, I did it with one. Yeah,
Me
I did
too.
it with one of my chairman of the boards, Peggy Morgans. She had a 20-year plus very successful business. And she said, I think I might want to retire in 5 years and I don't want to just close the doors. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And in 2 years, she went from like 1 or 2 employees to like 7 employees, completely replaced herself in the business.
Yeah.
And what was great is, she increased her gross revenue by, I don't know, 300,000. I don't remember. You know me, I can't remember the numbers, but she increased her gross revenue, increased her team, increased her efficiencies, increased her profit margins. And she said, there's actually no reason to retire at this
Right?
point. The damn thing
Exactly.
is running.
It's running on autopilot. I just get to sit back.
That's it. I mean, and to some
And
extent,
that's the
an
dream.
exaggeration, right? But
Yeah.
it's not
No, of
the
course,
same
you always
as
have to
what.
be in it a little bit, but
Yeah, but it's not the same as like when she had 10 pairs of drapes to make and she had to make them. It's like,
I know.
okay, we don't make any money unless I make these drapes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
And,
yeah, I love it.
sometimes it's a little bit, I don't want to say, if I want to say ego, but like, oh, I do it the best. I've been there too,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there too in my CFO business. And I'm like, but wouldn't it be amazing if you could teach somebody to do it like you? Like, that's where the power comes in. That's where the oh my God, I've created this other human that like can do it like me. And,
Yes.
so,
Yeah. That's funny. That came up in a recent conversation with a coaching session too. It was like, but my standards are higher. I'm like, okay, we need to talk about this. Like, you can have high standards and you can find other people that have them as well or train them into them. You know what I
yes.
mean? Yeah. Yeah.
And
So,
and you can people are going to make mistakes. Even we make mistakes, right?
all day long.
And
I
you
always say, don't stay in bed if you don't want to make a mistake.
and you just have to be forgiving of it, right? Because as long as the employee or the staff member doesn't keep making the same mistake, that's how they learn. That's how they learn. So
That's right.
You got to be
And we
okay
have to
with
show up
mistakes.
and be compassionate there. Yeah. Yeah. And so then the final question that I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned it, is what is, you say, the number one reason most people don't become wealthy or rich? So we've kind of,
well, that goes back to the mindset.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that really goes back to the mindset, because we set, like, if you have if you're not rich already, you probably have some sort of mindset blockage.
Okay.
Because, and you don't know it's there. Because you will sabotage yourself all along the way
without even knowing
it.
That's the tough part. That's the sneaky, insidious part of it. Okay.
That's your
and then
sneaky subconscious.
I know, right? Like now we need therapy, even though we feel like we're normal. Or I shouldn't say normal. That's horrible, but whatever. Anyway, so the thing is, when you talk about the things to do to start building wealth, is it really, is there tactical strategies?
Oh, absolutely.
Or is that literally that just rewiring the brain?
Well, I mean, if you don't change your mindset, and I'll give you a tactical strategy too, but I want to go back to a girl. Actually, she was an interior designer.
Wow.
And she joined one of my programs, and the first thing we work on is mindset. And she came to me after the first session. This program was a group program. And she's like, Audrey, like, I thought this was going to be strategy. Like what's going on here? I don't know if I'm in the right program. And I'm like, Rebecca, just trust the process. Trust me. I'm like, we need to start here. She had huge breakthroughs. It was amazing when she was like ready to like quit in the beginning because she just wanted the strategies, right?
Yes.
But if
you want the magic pill, give me the bullet.
Bob, I'll throw in a quote. Bob Proctor says success is 95% mindset and 5% strategy. And I believe that. So
I agree. Yeah.
But a strategy I will share with you about growing your wealth is save first. Okay. So save like it's an electric bill, I like to say. And that's how I've grown my wealth over the years. And even when you don't think you can save, just pretend it's an electric bill. and
Right,
just
right,
like
right.
$50 a month. And I'm one that save in a mutual fund that set it and forget it. Even
Yes.
if it's $50 a month, you are doing something in saving. And if you put it in a mutual fund, it's not like it's in a savings account that you can get to whenever you need it. Like
Spend
it
it at
takes,
Christmas
yeah,
time.
it takes a little more effort. You can still get to it if you're in
Yeah, but
desperate
you're
need
not
of it.
gonna. Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
you're not going to get it because you're not going to go grab that just because, you want to buy an extra, pair of shoes or something.
Right,
I don't know.
right, right.
But so, a lot of them, I'm like, save first and spend what's left over. Because one of the things I often hear is, well, there's nothing left over.
Yeah, yeah,
So, well, of course there's not because you're
yeah.
spending it all. So,
Mhm.
like, and, not that you can't spend and get what you want. When I work with women business owners, the first thing we do is we build, what I call a prosperity plan. And
Mm,
and we put down like what their regular monthly expenses are and their revenue and their team and all of that. And we look at it. Is it, it's like basically a P&L, but AKA budget. I hate the word budget because it sounds so constraining, but we
right,
build
right.
this prosperity plan and we take a look at it and we say, okay, your bottom number is a negative and you're not even
Mm,
paying yourself. So we
mm,
need to make some changes here. What are we
mhm.
going to do? And sometimes we reduce the expenses. A lot of times it's like their team, right? And we figure out how to get a different team or whatever. Or we increase the revenue.
Right,
Those are your two options.
right.
It's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
that simple. And I'm not going to say you have to reduce your expenses. Like it's up to you as the business owner to make that decision. But now you got the picture in front of you. If you ever want to start paying yourself what you truly deserve, we need to make some changes. So I've had so much success with that because so many women never look at that.
Right.
They just look at what's in the bank account, right? Well, that's
Mm,
irrelevant in my
mm.
opinion. Like,
Right, right.
like you got to look at your monthly expenses and what you're spending and what you're bringing in and what's left over. So I've had a couple different theories. Like sometimes or strategies. Sometimes we reduce the expenses and we increase the revenue, and that's amazing. Or,
Right.
I've had some clients were like, oh, well, I can't, like their biggest expense usually is their team. I need this team. I wouldn't have a business without this team. I'm like, okay, so we need to increase your revenue.
Right.
And I was working with this girl recently, Tiffany. And first of all, we reprogrammed her mindset. She used to have making money is hard. We started reprogramming that, and she went from a regular monthly income of 20,000 when we started working together, like almost the entire year was 20,000. January, she had a $200,000 month.
Whoa.
She 10x her revenue by changing that mindset of making money is hard. And
Wow.
and and she was the one that didn't want to reduce her team. And I'm like, okay, great. Let's bring this money in.
Right. Well,
um,
and I guess sometimes you need to, if you, first of all, what I know is if you're not paying attention,
yes,
then everything just happens. Like
yes,
it just keeps happening the same way year after year and nothing changes, right? Because we're
exactly.
not looking at what to change.
Right.
And in that regard, if you get very clear on here's my obstacle, my team is, I'm overstaffed or they're overpaid for not, they are not overpaid, but overpaid for the revenue, right?
Yeah.
Because that's
Right.
what the relevant relationship
Exactly.
is,
Yeah.
right? It's if you are so adverse to reducing the team, then it kind of gives you the juice for,
Yeah.
well, then I guess I've got to do this, right? It's like either, like there's one, something's got to give,
Yeah.
like,
If you ever want to get paid, something's got to change.
yeah. And sometimes that's all the clarity that somebody
Yeah.
needs, because I can imagine just not knowing your particular client, but having had a gabillion conversations about it. It's like, I guarantee that some level, there's a gross revenue that's happening that seems sort of like a good status number for
Yeah.
her, and it outwardly is looking like an appropriate yet successful business, and the team is there, and all the things look like they're in place. But when the drip, Vinny calls it the drip that's come back to her is
Nothing.
not there, then it's sort of like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
And then what happens is a lot of business owners will exist in that for years, whether it's 1 or 5 or 8, because they don't pick their head up to understand, what do I need to look at in order to make a change? They're so busy doing the things and thinking, well, this is the year there's going to be something left for me. And it doesn't happen that way. You have to intend.
Exactly.
Even like Michelle, it's so funny because like my first meeting with Michelle, literally she said, okay, so we went through all the different things and blah, 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 and all the revenue streams and the profit margins of all the different revenue streams, because we had all that information. And then when we ended it, she said to me, what do you want to earn net next year? And I was like, and so I said the number, and she's like, all right. And we want to have built in the taxes to pay for that number.
Exactly.
We want to, blah, 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 right? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, okay, I'll see you next week. I'm like, okay.
That's perfect. Yeah, I kind of say, well, how much do you want to make? Like, how much do you want to, that's kind of what I said to Tiffany. I'm like, okay, well, you're not paying yourself now. You told me that. I'm like, so basically you're working for free, and I know you're working hard and working for free. So essentially you could shut this whole thing down and go get a job and make more money. I said, so let's figure this out. And I'm like, how much do you want to make? And she gave me her number, and I'm like, okay, well, this is where you got to be.
Yep.
And we factored in like what she wanted to make and like what you said, the taxes. And I'm like, yep. Okay. Yep. And then she like tripled it. I was like, you are my girl. I was just like, I love it.
Because once you understand what's possible, right? That's the empowerment that comes with this information and knowledge.
100%.
It's like, oh, this was all just happening to me, and now I'm actively happening to it, right?
Yep.
It's like I am not passively just receiving and seeing what's happening in my business at the end of every weekday, month, and year. Oh, what was the result? It's like, no. We're intending the results. We're planning for the results. Yep. We're working towards the results. It's so funny because like for me, having been in sales all these years, and of course my main role at WindowWorks was sales, you start every single year, you start every single month, you start every single day with, what is my goal number today? And the thing is, for me, I had my goal number, but I understood from the planning meetings that Vin and I, and over the years as the team grew with the team, what was built into that goal number. That goal, I'm not saying goal number. So I knew if I had to sell $100,000 this week, that was because we were doing advertising based on that. We were paying employees based on that. But he just put the number in front of me. He's like, this is the number, lady. Go get it. Like, all right, I'm got it. I'll see you. Bye. I'll be back.
Yeah, that's basically what I did with Tiffany. I just like, okay, here's your number. You want you want to start paying yourself. Go get it.
I'm going to tell you what, anytime our WindowWorks team has been off a number, right? So we know every single month and every single Monday we review, where are we month to date? Where are we year to date? Right? We have had times. I remember one time last summer, we were 5 days to the end of the month. We were $160,000 off monthly goal, right? 5 selling days left. And I'm going to tell you what, if you just looked, first of all, if you didn't know that you were 160K off of your number, 5 days left, you probably would have maybe closed 10 or 20 or $30,000 in sales in those 5 days, because you have no idea what's going on. And just like, it's all fine. I guess somebody will pay the bills. It'll be great. Right. But instead we sat the sales team down, JC did. And he's like, we have to close 160 in 5 days. And we're like, okay, there's 4 of you. divide it by 4. What is it? You each have to get 40. And we're like, it's Monday. You have till Friday. So you have to get 40,000 by Friday, divided by 5. What is that? I have no idea. What's not even numbers for me. Do you know what that is? 40,000 divided by 5.
8.
I don't know. 8. There you go. Right? And so here was the thing. This is the power of doing this, because at the beginning of that paragraph, it was like, we have to hit $160,000 by Friday. And at the end of that paragraph of that tiny conversation was like, oh, I have to do 8,000 a day.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It was like, okay. I mean, that's 2 phone calls,
Yeah.
Drapes are $2,000 a drape. Like, come on. You know what I mean? Like,
break it down to drapes. I need to sell.
Yeah,
4 drapes. All right. That's easy.
1,000. You know what I mean? But that's the thing of understanding, tracking, and following, because otherwise we would just close out every month. And at the end of the year, we'd be like, wow, we had a goal for 3.8, but we did 2.8. That sucks. All right, let's try again next year.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's, that's a great point. And that's kind of what, inspired Tiffany, because most business owners are great at sales, right? They wouldn't have gotten where they got to if they weren't. And she was like, oh, okay. She just told me what I need to do. I'm going to go do it.
That's it.
We literally did what you said. She really needed to bring in. So her package is like 50,000. So really, she only needed to bring in 1 client in January, and she brought in 4.
Yeah.
So, but
you're not going to bring any in without the goal.
Yeah,
and without the clear conversation.
Yeah. And then we made a list of 8, like hot, warm leads that she already had. So it was kind of like, okay, we had these 8 people. She only had to call 8 people. So
that's it. We call it dialing for dollars. Get on the phone.
Smile and dial.
That's it. I love it. It's so good. It's such good. I want to go over and finish the other 3 questions clearly. And then I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to mitigate my mindset issues. And it will be interesting to hear and see Vinny's, how his might be different.
Yeah, get him to do it too. So there's an audio on my website that tells you goes through, it's 20-minute audio, goes through all 5 questions, and then it also tells you how to reprogram them.
Good. Because listen, anybody who has spent, a year in a partnership, whether it's a romantic one or a business one, let alone 40 of them.
Yeah.
Right. Like, your money issues are different.
Yeah.
Like, they are. Like, I totally know they are.
100%.
And thankfully they blend enough to get through the day and the week and the year and the decades. But it will be interesting to see the places that my mindset might have affected him and us, and the way his mindset.
You'll have to report back to me and let me know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can't wait. I have another interview in 10 minutes. I'll have to wait. I'm like, I want to do it now.
And I just one last thing, like, people often tell me before they take it, oh, I don't have any money mindset issues. I'm good.
Oh, okay.
Right?
You're the unicorn. Good for you.
No, or I've worked on my mindset, but they haven't worked on the subconscious part.
Yeah.
And I do a master class sometimes that goes through these questions, and that's why I get a lot of real feedback in that. And I remember this friend of mine, colleague, and she was like, I came on here thinking I didn't have any money mindset issues. She goes, out of your 5 questions, I had 4.
Yeah.
It's like, that's
interesting.
It's like, because you don't know it's there. And if you didn't, if you're rich and you're like swimming in the dough, then you probably don't. But if you're not, you probably do.
But even then, I have to say, I think that you probably do. Yeah. How could you not? You're a human.
Right,
Come
you're
on.
a human.
Your wiring gets
Exactly.
screwed up. Come on, that's what happens. It always happens by what our darn parents said or did.
Yep,
but like,
it's all their fault.
Darn kids. We created 5-star Niagaras, and all the guys are like, thanks for that. But it's like, it's so funny, because I think, like, look, we saw those first 2 of mine. The one is mitigated by the other.
Yeah.
Like if I believe making money is easy, I can have a decent life, even though I think saving is hard, because
Yes.
I'll just turn around, just like that whole example of the
Unless
window
something
works meeting.
happens to you. Right,
Right,
Luann?
right, 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 right. If I
You know?
can't earn, right?
Right?
But see, but you know what's so funny? You know what I just heard in my brain? Oh no, I figured it out. Like I literally just heard it in my brain. I literally like now.
But
I'll
wouldn't it
just
be
figure it
great
out.
not to have to?
Yes, yes, all those things, all those
Right?
things. But that mindset is so deep in me. Like literally, that was literally my thought when because
Yeah.
I literally pictured if I was physically incapacitated, I was like, oh, she's talking about if you can't do it, and I literally went to now I figure out a way. Now I
What
figured
if
out a
you
way.
can't talk?
I don't know. I'll figure out a way. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. It is not a thing that keeps me up at night ever.
Well, that's great.
But I
That
am
is, you're
curious what
right,
the
though.
others are.
Yeah.
But that is. But you see, I think that is the proof of a mindset belief. That one happens to be positive.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Like
Yes.
you can tell me
100%.
10, well, what about this, Luann? And I just keep going, whatever,
I'll
whatever,
figure it out.
whatever. I
I've
will.
always
I
made
just don't know.
money.
Literally, like I'll just call all the people in my world and say, okay, how are we going to do this? I need help. I've been helping you. Let's help me. You know, like I don't know what I do. I don't care. But see,
Yeah, you're right.
like that is
It's
what
so
is so,
ingrained in you that you
yes.
can't see the possibility of that not being.
Nope. Nope, cannot. But that's why I'm so interested with the other questions because the negative ones are as deep too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not going to want to know them, but I know if I know them, then I can start to change
Yeah,
them.
and you can be
Like, and I
conscious of
have a
them.
great life.
Yeah.
What could it be if I had things to mitigate? Whoa. Like, that's beyond comprehension right now.
Did I just blow your mind, Luann?
You have. You totally have. Oh my goodness. Well, this was so much fun. I appreciate you. I appreciate your perspectives, Audrey. I mean, we will put the links in the show notes to all of your things. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your
You're
wisdom with
welcome.
us.
I had so much fun here, and I just, just want to say, everybody, think about your mindset and really be conscious of it because it is so important.